The smell of warm croissants and freshly brewed coffee filled the kitchen, but it didn't make the air any less heavy. My father sat at the head of the table, his silver hair catching the pale morning light. My stepmother, Elinor, tapped her perfectly manicured nails on the porcelain plate, while my three-step siblings scrolled through their phones with a practiced arrogance that came from being loved too much and questioned too little. I sat at the far end of the table, like I always did at the chair that used to be my mother's. "Good morning, everyone," my dad said, his voice carrying that soft, rehearsed cheerfulness he often wore like a suit. "I have some exciting news." I straightened up. My heartbeat, for some reason, quickened. I didn't know why. Maybe I still hoped to be included. Maybe, deep down, that little girl who had lost her mother at 12 still thought her father would look at her the way he once did. "We've booked a trip to Italy," he announced, smiling. Elinor gasped dramatically, clutching her chest as if she hadn't planned it with him for weeks. The kids cheered. Isabel tossed her hair, Liam fist pumped the air, and June squealed like a little girl, even though she was 21. I felt a spark of warmth in my chest. Italy, a place I had always dreamed of. My mother had shown me pictures when I was little. Her favorite painting was Botticelli's Primavera. She had promised me one day we'll go there together. But then my father's next words carved that spark into ash. "Just the six of us," he said. "You'll hold things down here, okay?" I froze. The cross in my hand felt like a stone. "I'm sorry, what?" My voice cracked even though I tried to sound strong. Elinor tilted her head, faux sympathy dripping from her like poison. "Sweetheart, this is more of a family bonding trip. It wouldn't make sense to complicate the dynamics." Complicate, that was her favorite word. She had used it when she threw out my mom's clothes, when she convinced my father to turn my bedroom into a storage room, when she had slowly, skillfully erased my mother's existence from this house, from his heart. "But I'm family too," I whispered. My father didn't meet my eyes. "You know how things are," he said, sipping his coffee. "We'll make it up to you, promise." Liam snorted under his breath. "Yeah, maybe we'll bring you back a fridge magnet." Isabel laughed, tossing her hair back. I felt my hands shake under the table. "Thank you for understanding." Elinor added sweetly, "You've always been so independent." That word again, independence. That was what they called being abandoned in your own home. I stood up quietly, walked to the sink, and washed my hands just to have something to do. I could feel the heat of shame crawl up my neck. My father didn't stop me. He didn't even look my way. It wasn't just a trip. It was confirmation, loud and clear, that I didn't belong. Not in this house, not in his heart. As I walked up the stairs to my tiny attic room, I heard Elinor giggle. Finally, a proper family vacation. And then my father. I sat on my bed, staring at the ceiling. Italy, I could almost see it. I could almost hear my mother's voice whispering, "Don't let them define your worth." But the truth was, I had let them for years. Something inside me snapped, not like a bone, but like a rope pulled too tight for too long. The kind of snap that doesn't make a sound but changes everything. I opened my old wooden trunk, the one I'd kept hidden under the bed, and pulled out the folder, my portfolio. I'd been working 2 jobs since college ended. I had savings. I had applied to several international art residencies. And just last week, I had received an acceptance email from a gallery in Florence. I hadn't told anyone. They wouldn't have cared. "They're going to Italy without you, but maybe you don't need them to take you there." I clenched my jaw. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt a fire build in my chest, but then my phone buzzed, a message from my stepbrother Liam. Something colder than fire settled in me. I pressed send and closed the phone with steady hands. They had no idea what was coming, and as the sound of their laughter floated up the stairs, I whispered to myself. The airport buzzed like a hive. Rolling suitcases, loudspeaker announcements, the smell of coffee, everything felt sharp, alive. A week after that breakfast, my father and his real family were lined up at Terminal B, laughing, their passports in hand. They were leaving for Rome, and me. I stood at Terminal D, Florence, one-way ticket, paid for with my own hard-earned savings. I wore the leather jacket my mother gave me when I turned 16. She had saved up for months to buy it. Elinor had once told me to throw that old thing away. I never did, As their boarding call echoed faintly through the airport, I saw them, my father, Elinor, the golden children. I could have turned away, but I didn't. I wanted to see their faces. When Liam spotted me, his smirk faltered. What the hell is she doing here? Elinor followed his gaze, her smile stiffened. Sweetheart, what are you doing here? I met my father's eyes. His brows furrowed, but he didn't speak. He rarely did when it mattered. I'm going to Italy, I said calmly, but not with you. Their confusion was delicious. Elinor tried to smile. Oh, honey, that's cute. It's not cute, I replied. It's mine. I turned and walked away before they could say anything else. Their voices blurred into the background as I stepped into my gate. My heart was pounding like a drum, but my steps were steady. I didn't owe them explanations anymore. The flight to Florence felt like shedding old skin. For the first time in my life, I was moving towards something, not running away. I looked out the window as the plane ascended, watching the clouds swallow the city that had caged me for years. When I landed, everything smelled different: warm bread, cobblestone dust, espresso, and something sweeter: freedom. The gallery residency had arranged a small apartment for me, a room with white walls, a single bed, and a view of terracotta rooftops. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I spent the next days painting like I hadn't in years. I poured my rage into reds, my sorrow into blues, my hope into gold. My hands ached, but my heart breathed. And then the email came. The gallery wanted to feature my first solo exhibition in 3 weeks. I laughed, not the bitter, broken laugh I'd grown used to. This one was real, but life doesn't stay golden for long. On the 5th day, as I left the gallery late at night, my phone lit up with a call from my father. My stomach twisted. For a moment I thought of ignoring it, but something, maybe the last shred of the daughter who once needed his love, made me answer. Hello, where are you? His voice was tense. In Florence, I said evenly. He sighed heavily. This is not funny, Evelyn. It's not supposed to be. You should have told us. He snapped. Do you know how worried Elinor was? I almost laughed, worried. About what? Her photo ops. I don't owe you explanations anymore, I said softly. Don't be ridiculous, he said. You're still part of this family. I closed my eyes. No, I'm not. There was silence. And then his voice, lower, colder. You're being ungrateful. That word, like a slap. It always came when I tried to stand up for myself. I hung up. The next day I poured everything into my canvas. I painted the empty chair at the breakfast table my chair, and in the background a window opening to Italy. It was my story, my pain, my rise, but Florence wasn't done testing me. 3 days later, as I returned from the gallery, I found Elinor standing outside my apartment. In Italy. Elinor's presence in Florence felt like a crack in the sky. She stood there in a beige coat, her pearl earrings gleaming in the golden streetlight. For a moment I thought I was hallucinating. Surprise, she said softly, her accent flattening the Italian air around us. My heart slammed against my ribs. What are you doing here? Your father's worried sick, she said smoothly. He wanted me to check on you. I scoffed. He couldn't call. She ignored that. Evelyn, this isn't like you. Running off like some dramatic. I didn't run. I cut her off sharply. I left. She exhaled slowly, as if trying to contain her irritation. You have responsibilities back home. No, I said. I have myself, and I finally chose her. Her jaw tightened. For the first time the mask slipped. You've always been difficult. You know that. Always needing more. More attention, more love, more space. You're never satisfied. I stared at her. That's not true. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You were always in the way, even when your mother was alive. My breath caught. You think your father stopped loving you after she died? No, Evelyn, he stopped long before. You remind him of her, and he couldn't stand it. The world tilted slightly. I didn't want to believe her, but a part of me, the part that remembered his cold stares and distant silences, already did. Why are you here? I whispered. Because you're embarrassing us, she said, her voice suddenly sharp. The gallery posted about your upcoming exhibition. Do you have any idea what that looks like? You, the forgotten daughter, suddenly in Italy, acting like a star. I stared at her, and for the first time I didn't feel small. I felt pity. Elinor, I said slowly. I'm not the one embarrassed. You are, because I became something without you, without any of you. She flinched. I took a step closer. You erased my mother from that house. You erased me, but here I am, not erased, not invisible, and you can't stand it. Her face twisted. You'll regret this. No, I said calmly, I won't. I walked past her, my pulse loud in my ears. She called my name, but I didn't turn back. The night of my exhibition, the gallery was packed. The warm lights bounced off the white walls, illuminating my paintings, my pain laid bare for the world. Critics, collectors, and artists mingled, sipping wine and murmuring. And there, in the center, was my masterpiece, the empty chair. I wore my mother's bracelet that night. It had been tucked away in a box for years. Now it gleamed on my wrist like a quiet rebellion. As people praised the work, a familiar voice cut through the noise. My father, he stood at the entrance, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Not powerful, not distant, just human. I didn't think you'd come. I said I had to. He whispered. We stood in silence, surrounded by everything they had tried to bury. He looked at the painting, his eyes glistened. That's your chair, yes. I said softly, the one you left empty. He closed his eyes. I'm sorry. It wasn't enough. It would never undo the years. But it was something, and I realized something too. I didn't need his apology to feel whole anymore. I forgive you, I said, but I'm not coming back. Tears spilled down his cheeks. For once, I didn't feel guilt. As the night ended, Florence buzzed outside like a soft heartbeat. I walked home under a sky full of stars. No father, no Elinor, no empty chair, just me, exactly where I was meant to be.